Hey everyone, Gooey here again with another special bonus for everybody on our feed. As you may know, we just launched the Soundstone podcast network with our friends from Pixels and Polygons and Kirby Conversations, both great podcasts. And we've got a giveaway going on right now to celebrate the launch of the network. So go check out the link in the description below wherever you're listening to this too, and you can enter for a chance to win. It's a selection of Darren's 32-bit library books as well as retro game zines. There's money for a video game shopping spree in there. A lot of great stuff. Last week we mentioned this and we shared one of Darren's episodes of Pixels and Polygons that we were on, and so this week I'm going to share an episode that McKenna and I were recently on from the Kirby Conversations podcast. It was a lot of fun. We talked about the original Smash for Nintendo 64. I know we're not there in our timeline yet, but I don't think it's going to ruin the immersion. So, go check that out. Go check that podcast out and check the giveaway out, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. For me now, it's like there's almost like two back thens, because now I'm almost 35 and I have like nostalgic memories of playing this game like in my 20s even too. So like it's just been on top of all the other Smash games. But yeah, like this game in particular I feel like has been one that I'm the most likely to revisit like as the years go on compared to the other games.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Kirby Conversations. I'm Sean Douglas. I'm a writer, podcaster, and teacher. And I am back again with Bridget. Hi, Bridget.
Hello, I'm Bridget. I'm a Kirby commentator. I also am a longtime fan, collector, and fan artist, and I'm happy to be here.
And we also have Gigi from What Kirby. Hi, Gigi.
Hi, I'm Gigi. I'm the editor-in-chief of We Kirby. I also do some Kirby translations, and I'm just a really big fan from Brazil. Hi.
And we are also here with some special guests returning who people have been listening to the podcast for a long time will recognize, but our friends from Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast, are here.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Gooey.
I'm McKenna.
And yeah, we host that podcast. We like Kirby too. He's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people aren't familiar with Flashback 64, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a podcast all about the Nintendo 64, which I think can be kind of an underrated console sometimes. I can tell you put so much effort into all of the episodes. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for being a friend of the show. It's great having you back to talk about a Nintendo 64 game. And we are talking about the original Nintendo 64 Super Smash Bros. We really have not talked about a lot of Smash Brothers yet on the show. So I thought it made sense to start at the beginning with the first one. And there are so many different directions we could go with this. And while I think it will be good to touch on some history and some aspects of what the game is sort of like and how it came to be, I think we can generally focus this episode on this concept of what was it like to play it back then versus what is it like to play it today. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kick it off by just let's share our experiences for when we first played this game. So when did you first play it, and what was it like playing it for the first time? Would anyone like to start?
Should McKenna go? It might be.
I think McKenna is the newest one to this particular game. Maybe.
Yeah. Oddly enough, this is the oldest Smash game, but it's the most recent one for me to play the first time. I I played it sometime in the last year for the first time. We've had friends over and played with them. I think one time our friend Andrew visited, and I think that was the first time I played it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, this is. It's still Smash, but I was like, how do I control this? This works a little differently. Where I got the basic idea pretty quickly, just because it was already familiar to me. It feels nostalgic, even though it was my first time playing it. I
That's
feel
great.
like Nintendo 64 games just have that nostalgia factor.
It's the most nostalgic console.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make any sense, but
yeah. Went right for Link.
Of course.
They didn't have my girl Zelda.
No,
Zelda's
not
my
yet.
main. But she's not around. I usually go for Link. It feels a little I don't know. Brawl is the Smash I played the most of, so it definitely feels less floaty, as people say. Yeah. Did a little bit of the one player game mode where you play through all the different battles.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the all the Kirby's. I think that was my favorite.
They have a lot of fun gimmicks on there. Yeah.
Yeah, fun time.
Mm-hmm.
I like the lack of explanation too, where it's just like giant Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very much like they're like, let's have a match to show off like each type of thing we can do with this game. So like there's like a team based one, and like one, okay, we can make them really big, or like Metal Mario's, I guess we can make them heavier, or the polygon team. And I enjoyed that aspect, because with like, I feel like there's more like variety. Like a lot of times with more traditional like fighting games, going through like kind of the arcade mode or whatever they may have, since I'm not like a big fighting game player, it gets a little tiring, especially because I'm not good. But this is like, it's more of like a lighthearted like type of variety to show off like the different things the game can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're doing a lot to appeal to people outside the specific fighting game audience. They're presenting it more like a party game, presenting it like something that both casual and competitive players can all come to and find something just kind of fun and wacky to enjoy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Gooey, when did you first play the original Smash Brothers?
I couldn't remember like exactly like when, but like I don't remember. I was pretty young. It came out in 1999, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I was definitely playing it around then. I was 9 years old when it came out. So yeah, I was 9. So I just, it's one of those games that when it came out, it was, there was the commercial of all the characters, like people in like costumes of the characters like fighting each other. I just remember like that blew my mind, and I was so hyped about being able to fight Yoshi as Link or whatever, like Pikachu. Like it was just like it was the perfect thing to appeal to my 9-year-old sensibilities. Let's just say. So yeah, I don't have any like, I don't remember like, oh, I went and I got it or whatever. I just remember it being there and we played a ton of it. And yeah, and it's been, yeah, I mean, you said we'll talk about playing it today, but for me now it's like there's almost like 2 back thens, because now I'm almost 35, and I have like nostalgic memories of playing this game like in my 20s even too. So like yeah, it's just been on top of all the other Smash games. But yeah, like this game in particular, I feel like has been one that I'm the most likely to revisit like as the years go on compared to the other games.
Mm-hmm. I love that concept of a second nostalgia. I think a lot of times when we talk about nostalgia, we talk about, the first time you did something, you're doing something as a kid. But the idea that you'd have different eras with the game or just be going back to it over and over again and remember just some other time you played it that wasn't necessarily the first time. I think that's really relatable, and I don't know that gets expressed enough.
It was like the first time I really felt like it wasn't like when it was like, you're in your 20s and they're like, Toy Story is X amount of years old, and you're like, like that happens more now, but it's more because of the idea of I now have like nostalgic memories of stuff I did as an adult.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like that's why I feel old, even though I'm not old. Okay.
Great. And Bridget, what was your early Smash Brothers on the Nintendo 64 experience like?
Well, I think I had mentioned before that I got like my N64 from a stranger at a bodega, and I like begged my dad to get it for me because he was like, I'll sell it to you for $40 and it comes with these games. And I was like, that's such a great deal, Dad. You have to do it. Which now is crazy because I think getting a copy of Smash 64 costs like around that much just itself now.
Yeah. I think it's a little more than that, actually.
Yeah, it might even be like $50 or something more. So it's like, but back then it's like one of the games that was included with it. Like he threw in like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and it was just like, wow, one of the greatest gaming deals of my life.
Yeah.
Holy
and
cow.
and my brother was like a Sony kid. I was the N64 person. And it was great because we would also play each other's systems. So, that way we weren't like, we're not veterans of the console wars. We shared in each other's console bliss, and it was good. So like, this is a game we both played together regularly. Like this in Melee, we played a ton. And it was fun. And like, I was a big Kirby fan, and I freaked out that Kirby was in this other game with these other characters because like it felt like no one else knew Kirby except for me, and I was like, yeah, I played the game that he's from, and no one I knew played the game that he was from. He was kind of like Ness in a certain way, in which people who maybe played Earthbound was like a small minority of people knew who that was, but everyone else was like, who the heck is Ness, which is like, I think now more people know, but at that time, so it had like a little bit of that effect. And it's a great game. Like, I don't know if it's how to describe it, but I found this game to be cute. And I don't know how to say this other than it's like, there's something about the aesthetics combined with like the retroness and the way the characters look, and the toy idea is really prominent in this one. That just makes it like, yeah, it's like it's having fun with itself. It's got this arcadey feel to it. The extra challenges are really fun too. The ideas as well. And the stages are fun. It's a fun, good party game. It's cute. I had the opportunity to play it recently too, with friends, and I don't know if we want to get into this now, but like, everyone had different feelings about how it felt in modern terms, but I still personally enjoyed it. And I found it very charming still. So it's still have a lot of nostalgia for it, and Kirby was great in this one, so I give it extra points for that because he would not be very good in the next one.
And Gigi, what is your experience with this game?
So in my case, I think I'm probably the youngest here, so I didn't grow up with the 64. So in my case, I actually first played this game. I was trying to remember because I know I have played it, but like not much. But I think it was like I remember playing this game and Melee for the first time, like in a game exposition that happened like here, like many years ago. And you could play like a couple classic games in the original console. I remember just playing a little of it. Otherwise, I have not played it exactly. I was the person that grew up with the Wii, so I played mostly Brawl and later the other Smash games. So this one for me, I mostly know from like watching gameplay, learning about development and stuff. So like I'm very familiar with the game, but like I haven't played it much, and I really wish I did because it sounds really nice, like to play. Like Bridget said, it's cute. Like I was thinking that just that's how the impression I have of the game. It just the art style is really cute for some reason. I don't know. And I'm really hoping they bring it to NSO because I kept wondering like why isn't there yet? Like they releasing Virtual Console I was like, seeing here, but like that was 16 years ago. So like I want to play this game, but like right now it's not really accessible, so I can't really do that. So yeah, in my case, I don't have a lot to say about it. Just more, please release it on NSO because I want to play it again. Like it has been so long, and I have played so little. Because yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if it might come out by the time we did this show, and it's still not there as far as I know, unless they just dropped it like today or something. But
imagine.
hopefully as soon as they bring it, which I thought they said it was coming, hopefully
I thought
as
so
soon as they
too.
do, we can play it together.
I would love that. Oh, please.
Ooh, with online too? Yeah, I mean, it should be on there. It should be on there.
Yeah. Gigi, what was that expo you were describing? Was that like something in Brazil where they were like showcasing different games kind of around like the like maybe mid 2000s or something?
Yeah, I can't really remember. Like it was over probably 10 years ago or something. I don't remember if I was like if I remember anything, but like it's just a memory I have because I remember just playing that game and also Melee. And if as Kirby, of course, because I didn't have much time to play, so I was just like, yeah, I'm going to be Kirby. I'm not going to try to figure out if I like on the other characters. And I just remember, though I know this about 64, but I remember in Melee because Kirby isn't good in Melee, and I knew that, but I still picked Kirby and won against like some boys that were like, "Oh, we are going against a girl," and I still beat them as Kirby. So like, I will never forget that for that reason. That's just a bit of topic,
Yeah.
but it was really funny. But yeah, I don't remember the details, unfortunately.
Do you remember if it was like an official Nintendo event?
Probably not. I don't think so.
That's cool that they were still like bringing out I know some people call it Smash 64, but it's not really called that, so I just keep calling it Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 64, which is kind of a wordy way to describe it too. But it was cool that they were still bringing that out in like the mid 2010s or something, just to be like, hey, here's this thing for people to play.
Yeah.
I think my experience is probably not that different from a lot of other people's experience. I would have been in 4th grade when this came out. It came out in April. In the United States, it came out in April of 1999. And I can remember the first images that I saw of it in Nintendo Power and feeling like, oh, this is really exciting. Like, these characters from different games are going to be all in the same game. And now this is a more expected thing. But of course, back then, that was really new to have this kind of crossover. And I just remember it being a really fun multiplayer game, playing a lot with friends, playing as Kirby a lot. I remember reading about Nintendo Power. I liked the art style that they had. It was very cute. They very much leaned into this like family-friendly party game aesthetic to it. I know during the development of the game, which has a really interesting development history if people don't know about it, we could almost do a whole episode about the development history. And I think rather than spending all of our time just talking about the history of the game, we'll talk more about playing it. But it's very much worth looking into that. On Sakurai's YouTube channel, he does have an episode about the making of the game. But he does talk about what it was like before this existed, that these characters could fight one another, and how he had to design the game on his own before showing it to anyone. Or maybe I shouldn't say he had to. He was designing it on his own before showing it to anyone. He was forced to, right? But he was doing it as a personal project, along with designing this game about a robot that could hack into security cameras. So he's designing this like action adventure game along with this fighting game. And then Satoru Iwata came on to help him program it, and there was someone else that did the music. but they weren't really sure what people would think about having their characters fighting each other. And they originally just had these stock characters fighting, and it was called Dragon King. And he has footage on his YouTube channel of what that original version looked like too. And they talked about what they would want the characters to be. He said that like they had a bunch of different ideas, including maybe making all the characters dogs, and it could be the first dog fighting game. He thought about maybe making all the characters Kirby characters. But then they thought like Nintendo characters would be so iconic to bring into the game, and it would really give it an identity. So they put in a few Nintendo characters without necessarily getting permission for that, just for their prototype, so that they could then show it to people. And Miyamoto thought it looked good. He thought they captured Mario pretty well, but he was most concerned about the Pokemon people, because it's just hard to get approval for things with Pokemon. And like there could be issues, right, with Mario like punching Pikachu or something. He has some very funny quotes that I will link in the episode description rather than just reading the whole interviews to you now. But it's worth looking back at some of these interviews because they are very funny. And there's a particular quote. Yeah, the reception within Nintendo was not very good either. It was like, hey, should Mario really be hitting Pikachu? Is that okay? When it first went on sale, there were people complaining about the idea of Pikachu holding a gun too. But in Smash Brothers, your goal isn't to defeat or physically beat your enemy. It's more like a sports game where you score points by knocking people out of an arena. That's why when someone wins, I made sure to include the sounds of applause for the victor. And I didn't include dead bodies or anything like that when players lose all their health. It's all a matter of perception, you see.
No fatalities.
But then he does go on to say how it did get embraced and people did come around and like the idea and how successful it was.
That's why they're like toys too, right? Was that like, I feel like in the video he maybe described that as like a way to get around. It's like, no, it's not really them fighting. It's like the toys of them fighting.
I forget if he says that in like the one that I was watching.
Okay.
I don't remember him saying that in that video, but I might have just forgotten. He did say that the first person he asked was Shigesato Itoi, the guy who did Earthbound. He said, next was Shigeru Miyamoto. When he saw our work, he said, hey, you've got Mario down pretty good. The Pokemon characters took the longest to get permission because their image is tightly supervised. I broached the subject with Pokemon Company president Tsunekazu Ishihara, but the impression I got from him was that it would probably be difficult. Satoshi Tajiri was more encouraging. He was like, this looks cool. Personally, as the creator of Kirby, I understood how they felt. I would feel really upset if Kirby was featured in a game that people ended up disliking, or if people got his image and movements wrong. In fact, there had been times when I'd been kind of annoyed by the way Kirby was depicted in someone else's illustration or as a game cameo. Smash Brothers was conceived in part as a reaction against this kind of sloppy handling. I imagine anyone who creates a character feels similarly protective. But Smash Brothers brought an unprecedented number of different characters together, and it was of the utmost importance to us that we recreate their personalities and characteristics faithfully. I absolutely did not want to betray the original characters' creators. And I think we see that same kind of attention in the modern Smash Brothers games when he talks about all the detail that goes into his research. And we really see someone who like wants to be true to these characters, who wants to do them right, and wants to make sure he has the approval of the original creators of these characters.
Yeah, it definitely comes across like that, like which I feel like I don't know, like I guess you might expect it out of Smash now, but like when you see like a big crossover type game, you know, like some people, like more cynical people might be like, oh, that's just some like cash grab or something like that. But clearly like a lot of love and care put into the game.
Yeah, I can agree. I feel many crossovers just feel like, hey, this is characters together doing stuff. That's all. Like, and that's all there is. So Smash Bros. Always feels like there's a lot of care on every single character, like getting the attention it needs and being respectful to the original game.
Yeah, and he does do like research in which he gets, you know, like I think for Tekken, from what I had read or seen, he played a lot of Tekken and presented like his idea of Kazuya, and they were like, wow, like he's really done his research or whatever. And I think there's like these attention to details even in the levels that kind of also reference that the games are from. Like the Earthbound levels are very lovingly done with like details that like a fan would know. Like there's this giant like kind of golem type character that the characters in the game get into, and there's like a little head in there, and I think you could see that too if you were to like zoom in or something somehow. And it's just like this attention to detail that is like, yeah, this is someone who is very, very careful. And I know sometimes there are critiques of his character, like depictions or whatever, but I feel like for the overwhelming amount of detail, especially in the modern Smash games where there's like, we're getting to like 80 characters or whatever, and the amount of levels and items and trophies and just like the detail, I think is still quite impressive, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to note that the interview that I was just citing was from the short-lived Nice Games magazine, which I'm reading off of shmupulations.com. It's a 1999 developer interview with him. And there is one other interview I wanted to cite that was from 2004, and this is from his Famitsu column that he maintained for a long time, where he was talking about how difficult fighting games could be in the 90s. He tells a story about playing King of Fighters 95 in an arcade and doing these long, elaborate combos and really demolishing his opponent, and then looking around kind of and catching the reflection of like who he was playing against on the other side. And it was a couple playing together, and there's this woman playing who was probably not as used to fighting games. And he felt bad about having beaten her so decisively when those two were probably more casual players, and I realized like, well, this probably wasn't fun for them. And so that was an experience he remembered that informed him wanting to make this a more accessible game, where it wasn't just a matter of who had memorized the longest combos, which I think can be fun too for games that work that way when people go into them knowing that they work that way. But I also think it's nice to have Smash Brothers as such an accessible game that plays very differently. It very much is its own thing. And in a way, he kind of invented a new genre, because now the platform fighter is just a thing that a lot of other games have replicated in their own way. And it's kind of hard to say maybe exactly where the genre started, because it wasn't like there weren't competitive games on platforms before. But clearly there are a bunch of games that have been inspired by Smash Brothers since, that kind of form their own subgenre of fighting game now.
Oh, yeah. And I think you can relate to what Sean was saying about fighting game difficulty.
Yeah.
Like we've had, I mean, and to be fair, we're playing a lot of Nintendo 64 fighting games, which aren't usually considered the best, but just in general, I feel like it's I think we both have this, but you feel it even harder, where it's like, I think we can appreciate what those games are doing, you know, and like why people like them and stuff, but like it's just, we don't gel with them as much. But it probably felt good to play this game, right?
Yeah, it's nice to just have like a set of a few moves where I know exactly, I just have to press a button or two to get them to work, and not like 4 buttons and hope that I press them at the right speed. And that they'll land, and it's much nicer for a more casual player.
This version of Smash embodies that. Bridget, you mentioned the toy thing. I think it embodies that aspect the most compared to all the Smash games. Both the toy thing, not just in like the lightheartedness, but also I think just the approachability and like the simplicity of it. And we can talk about, Sean, we were talking about the ideas of like talking about it, how playing it today, and how people have different views on how it feels and stuff. But I think this one overall it's a bit slower paced. There's like less, you mentioned all the items, like there's less items. It's a bit more simplistic. And so I think it is like the most, like if you give it to someone who's never like played a lot of games before, fighting games, whatever, like they can pick it up, I think the easiest. That's my hot take, is this is the most approachable Smash game.
No, I agree with you. I feel like for as exciting as New Smash is, I think it has ventured a bit from the accessibility a bit. And it's not that the gameplay itself has become so, I mean, it has drastically changed, but it's at its core, it is like this platform fighter. But now you have stages that are like constantly moving and things exploding and things coming out, like giant bosses or something. You have way bigger move sets, you have way more items, you have way more characters to try out, you have a million menus that you have to scroll through, and like, it's like if you're someone who's just like new to this idea or this genre, and you're just got this information overload from how like Smash Ultimate just has like tons of options, like you could turn this off, you could turn that on. It's like, you don't, with this you just jump in and that's it, and here's your 8 or few guys that you gotta like master, and that's it. And the movesets are more restricted, the levels are like pretty basic. Like there's the one that's got the tornado, okay, avoid the tornado. It's like, the lava comes up sometimes, okay, avoid the lava. But it's way more stripped down, and in a way that's kind of like more, easygoing.
In contrasting like the other fighting games, like we were saying, I remember playing like as a kid the other fighting games like King of Fighters, Street Fighter, and the only way I could play and win these games was if I would memorize a combo for a specific character. I would just like use it against someone all the time, and then that's how I would win sometimes. So whenever I play Smash, I noticed that like, even though I was the person that would like play as Kirby and spam Stone like in the beginning, because I think everyone does that at some point when they play Kirby. Like even that isn't like infallible, like it has downsides and all that. So I feel like Smash has that as well. Like, okay, there's a meta, even like there's probably going to be like the best character, like those combos and stuff. But I feel like for a casual player, like if you're just playing with a friend or something, you're less likely to try to find like the combo that will make you win, and more like, okay, who am I against? Like, does my friend play? How can I beat them? It's not like perfect. It's not like it has more than one answer, like how you can beat someone, instead of like, I'm just going to use this combo I found out and it works. So that's the thing I like about Smash, that I also noticed, like, again, I haven't played 64 much as a kid, but I remember playing other fighting games and being like, okay, I have to just do this over and over and I can win. But in Smash, I never felt that, even when I played like Brawl when I was a kid. So that's interesting that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting, Bridget, that you say that the current Smash Brothers is so complicated, because I definitely get what you're saying in terms of just the options and where do you begin, and if you're just sitting down to it for the first time, like who should you choose, where should you go, what mode should you play. But I also think it's very interesting that there are so many things about it that has stayed consistent over the whole series, where the characters might have more moves, but aside from a few characters that have become very complicated, a lot of the characters still play very similarly to how they always have, and they've really only gotten like one new special move over the years. Like Melee added the extra like side special, and in some cases characters' movesets have been altered a little bit, but for the most part, like at least like the number of moves available hasn't changed very much. And there might be like really elaborate stages and things like that, but the core mechanics of the game are still very similar from game to game. And if you compare that to something like the Street Fighter series, like every numbered entry in that series is really rebuilding things to some degree. They're saying, what new mechanics can we introduce that never existed before? And how can we make Street Fighter 4 really different from Street Fighter 3? And how can we make Street Fighter 5 really different from Street Fighter 4? Whereas if you were to go back in time, and McKenna, maybe you can speak to this too, like, did it feel pretty similar to the Smash Brothers you were used to, even if you already had experience with something that was, the more complex version of Smash Brothers now?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of Nintendo 64 games, I'll have to maybe check out a game manual before I start playing, figure out the controls. But this one was pretty easy to just turn on and be like, okay, I know how to get to game select, character select, stage select. I sort of know what moves I can expect from characters. How the stages, how I'm going to interact with the stages.
Yeah, like that idea of people picking Kirby for the first time and doing down B, like that's persisted throughout. A lot of those. You're right, Sean. Like a lot of those characters have like certain moves that are, they're known for in basically every game.
Yeah, I feel like the only time where maybe you can get into like how different each entry is when you get into like the deeper competitive meta, but like on a more surface level, it's like, yeah, it's the game. Like if you played one Smash, you kind of played them all. But like if you're getting into the nitty gritty, like I guess the unique thing with this Smash in comparison to later ones is how the hit stun works, which is sort of like how your character kind of has a moment of paralysis or freeze after being hit. It lasts forever in this game, which makes it a very combo heavy entry for competitive play. And I actually just watched a competitive event that took place in 2024, just last year, between a Yoshi player and a Captain Falcon player for this game.
Wow.
And so people are still playing this game to this day, even though there's other Smash, possibly better Smash. You still have like a specific style that this first game has that has allured people to like come back and play this specific entry. But it's like, for folks like me who just like are not playing on that level, to me it's like, this is Smash, this is home. I like this.
Yeah, this game it's I think it's slow, and then someone said floaty, but I think to me those, like, that's what separates this from basically every other Smash. I know they all like feel like if someone were to say Melee feels like Brawl, people get mad at you, but like all the other ones kind of feel sort of the same to me. You know what I mean? Where like this one feels different. I feel that way about the Mario Karts as well, a little bit, where like 64 is a bit more, maybe it's a bit more sloppy, but it's a bit more approachable. And I think, that's just something this era of Mario and Nintendo and everything, I kind of like it because it feels like our friend Connor said this to me, and it stuck with me, of like the like design for like Mario and all that stuff like hasn't fully settled in, so like just with the mechanics and the design, like it feels a little bit distinct, that early era of like simple polygons and stuff, that I think that's why for me it's like I'm usually always playing whatever the most recent Smash is, and then like this is the one I go back for nostalgia purposes typically.
Yeah, and I think it does hold up really well. Some people might feel like it's a little too slow. Of course, compared to Melee, it's very slow compared to Melee, which is really fast. And it's one of the things that keeps people coming back to Melee, is because they really want a really fast game. But I think as a party game, and as a game with a maybe more kind of stealthy competitive side to it, I think it does hold up if people are willing to get past that initial sensation that like, oh, this feels different. Maybe it feels a little different from modern Smash Brothers, but it's still good. And if you stay with it, it still has a kind of wacky You used the word sloppy, and I think that might not be a bad way to describe it, right? It has a bit of a kind of like jankiness to it, a little
Oh, yeah.
floaty. The game slows down when there's too much action on the screen and stuff. But that kind of janky, wacky partiness of it is part of the fun.
This is a game like a lot. I'm sure everyone of every age has this, but like there's a lot of people my age who, and I'm even like this to some extent, though podcasting has made me play more, but we're at the age, 9 to 12 or whatever, like played games hardcore, and then you get a little bit older and you have other interests, and you're into games as a kid, but you kind of got into other stuff. And that's like, so a lot of people my age, like they can jump back into playing this, but not like the new one so much, or Mario Kart, not as much the new one, or they can play GoldenEye, but they could never play like Halo, like they actually couldn't do dual stick controls, even though we've all agreed like it's objectively better. Like the world has decided that, but there are certain people of a certain age who like that's like they're gonna gel with this instinctively more. And so that's like another case where I've had really fun memories playing this in my 20s. Was like I remember I was in a band, and like all four of us right around the same age, and some of the people less gamers, they were in that situation, they got more into music or whatever, similar to me. But I remember like staying at people's places on tour and stuff, like just crashing at people's houses, and like when they would have this game, we'd all play it. And even though I played Smash in general a lot more than them, like we were all about the same level. Like, it just was kind of like muscle memory a little bit for them. So it's like one of those games where I feel like we were able to like revisit it and have fun, even though they hadn't probably played it in 10 years or so,
Yeah. I have an interesting perspective because I just played this actually earlier today. To backtrack a little, I was supposed to play this game on our actual N64, and I had ordered a Japanese cart, which I was going to swap the backs of with like a US cart so I could avoid the region locking and stick it into the US N64. But it didn't come in time, so I played the Wii version. But I imagine that this game always felt kind of like, it's like running at a lower frame rate and it's a little bit janky. So I kind of knew that going in, and it was fine. We played the Wii version, and we played with GameCube controllers. And I played with my friends, and they did not like it. They're so used to the new Smash Brothers. They like the new stuff. They've kept up with Smash Brothers over the years, and with every entry, they seem to like the next entry even more. So they're sort of like just fans who are kind of just on top of Smash every time a new one comes out. I personally liked it a lot, and I had a lot of fun, so I'm glad they indulged me by playing this older game with me, even though they're like frustrated and they're like, it doesn't move right, and I feel like I can't control my guy, or it's like he's not doing the attack. And so they hated it.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was valid. I was like, yes, this is, that Smash you guys love so much? What if we played that, but like worse? And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. But, they're very kind to play with me. And I think in the moment we had fun. So it's like, I still found us sort of laughing at times and giggling when things would happen. And I think the core fun of like what makes Smash so enjoyable in a group was still there. Just the movement for them, they just could not deal with that.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't played much Smash 64, but as I mentioned, Mario Kart, I'm the person that played Mario Kart 64 ever playing like Wii and all of the games. And I played Mario Kart 64 and I hated it. So I can relate to that. And also because I feel like I have that, but like for the DS and Wii games, like there are many of them that I don't play like many years, and then I go back and just suddenly I'm just enjoying it. In my case, actually, it was a Kirby the Amazing Mirror. I played a lot when I was like many over 10 years ago. Like I had a DS, so I could still play GBA games. And when I replayed that game, like when it released in NSO, uh, even though the game was like it had some issues and stuff, it just felt so natural like to play. I was just having so much fun, and then I hear so many people that don't like the game and whatever, and I just feel like even though I don't have like not a lot of nostalgia for the game, like I didn't play it a lot, it still like was in my muscle memory, so I can relate a lot to that. Like sometimes you just play a game and maybe it's not really that good, like it's not better than the ones they have right now, but you just like grew up with it. You play like as a kid I would play like the same game like 10 times over, like beat it again and again, try something else. Like today I don't have that patience, I don't have that time, so I just play a game once and then never again, maybe a lot later. But like, so I feel that's also part of the experience when you're a kid. And then when we play the game, like you mentioned, like 10 years later or something, you still like have that, so you still enjoy it, and you're like, it's, I can understand that. So not exactly with the 64 like Smash 64, but I can totally get it. And I can also get the, I have played the newer games, so when I go back to the older games I just don't like it. So like if you like both are valid, it's just interesting that our perspective of a game can be different depending if we played before or not, and probably as a kid too, because I feel that affects a lot as well.
Yeah. It's weird. There are times I've gone back to games and I absolutely love them more than when I played them back then. And then there's times where I loved a game as a kid and I play it as an adult and I'm like, you know what? I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, I also get that.
And I get it. Like in the case of my friends, I understand. It's like Smash, the way it feels. I think action, like movement, is very important in action games, and I can understand that. Like when you develop that further and you make that feeling like of control so precise and so fluid, and you know, I can understand the melee players too. You know, who are like so you know, even though I'm not like a melee, like oh everything sucks except for melee, like I get where they're coming from. I know why they like the game, and
Yeah.
you know, I respect it, but you know, I you know, whatever. So you know, all valid perspectives, but I also agree with you too. I have games where I'm like, I know like for Mario, like I know the SNES one is like everyone's list says that's like one of the best ones, but for me, I gotta go back to Mario 3. Like to me, that's the one
right.
that's right.
Yes. It
So,
feels
you
so
know,
tight, you know? Yeah.
it's good. I can't get into the SNES one. I know it's better for most people, but it's too much. It's too much new stuff. I want to go and just play Mario 3.
So I feel like sometimes with when we talk about games holding up, or like when people try to rate like this is games, this is objectively better or whatever, like I'm sure like overall, like for a wide audience, like a lot of times people I guess talk about like game design that's like intended to work for a certain set of people or whatever as like this is the objective right way for a game to feel and whatnot. But I think there's just so much of like I mentioned it before, but like I have a friend who's so good. Like I play GoldenEye against him and I can't even touch him. He's just this elite gamer. He doesn't really play games anymore, but he just was so good at that as a kid. But I'm not even good at like Halo, but if I played Halo against him, he probably couldn't like stop looking at the ground or whatever. You know, it's like it's just not natural. You know, so like even though like we make all these improvements or whatever, like there's always going to be like those older play styles that will appeal to certain people more. But I get also why they're not making games that market specifically to this guy who doesn't play a lot of video games, but you know.
Yeah, it's fair. And I think as long as you know, you enjoy a game, to me that's like the game's doing something good in its design, right? Because it's like if it's unplayable, you wouldn't be enjoying it this much. But I feel like for these old games, especially on N64, it's like back then, it's like we didn't have these modern games to compare them to, but back then we played them and we were like, this is like the most amazing thing ever. I love, Ocarina of Time or whatever. But now it's like compared to Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, yeah, I guess it sucks, but like that's not how we felt back then. It's like it was good for a reason. Like it was popular for a reason.
We get in those. We're like more in the Zelda community, and we get that a lot. Like people might maybe grew up with like Twilight Princess or something, and they're like, it just feels better or whatever. But like to me, like it's something I'll never be able to like see, and I don't think it's because nostalgia. Like I just play Ocarina of Time, and it feels like good to me. It feels right, and it's like you could say that's nostalgia, but it's like that's just literally how it feels to play for me subjectively. Like I don't know, like
yeah. I mean, I played Superman 64 as a kid, but I don't have nostalgia for that. It's like nostalgia can only take you so far. It's got to be good at its core to some extent for you to want to play it. Mm-hmm. So I get it.
Mm.
Yeah, it does feel like in some cases the style of the game is accused of being only what it is due to technical limitations, when that was still a decision that someone made at the time. Like, I don't know, maybe he would have made the game faster if he wanted to, but the game was not fun just because people were like, well, someday there will be a better version of this and we'll just have to play this now. Like, it was fun because it was fun. And a lot of this comes down to expectations. And Bridget, maybe if your friends couldn't play the other Smash Brothers anymore, and you were like stranded on a desert island somewhere with just a Nintendo 64 and that Smash Brothers, you would come to like it, not like in a Stockholm Syndrome kind of way, but like you would just maybe get past that initial hurdle of, oh, this is different. And once you got past those expectations, you'd be like, oh, well, this is just a different way for Smash Brothers to be, rather than an inferior way. And I get why we're not going back to the feel of the original, but it also feels like isn't maybe part of the reason that we don't have Smash Brothers like that anymore is because there is a Smash Brothers that is like that already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's true. Yeah, I do feel like sometimes I mean, the folks I knew who don't like it now but played it when they were young, played it a lot back then, or played it somewhat and enjoyed it. And for them to have played it back then, it must have been enjoyable. So I don't know. Maybe they can't go back to it after having the sweet, sweet taste of Smash Ultimate, like the forbid, like the deadly fruit, and now they can never go back. They'll just starve on that island. But maybe not. Maybe they'd get used to it and be like, okay, this is how this one feels, and I've attuned to it. And now we're having fun. But I don't know.
If you're stuck on an island, you need that like spirit mode to give you more to do.
And it is interesting too how the series it's sped up, and now where it is now with Ultimate, it's fast, but it's still kind of, I think it's more kind of in the middle as far as speed has been for the series throughout its lifespan, right? Where Melee's the fastest. So you had the slowest one, followed by the fastest one, and everything since then has gone kind of between those two extremes.
Brawl, they were like, don't go too fast or we will make you fall down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like other franchises have gone through this too, and I think it's a design decision based on what people think maybe players can handle at a certain speed, because I know the Kirby games are like this too, where it's like the earlier ones and the Game Boy Advance ones are like really fast and feel really good, but then you get to like Kirby 64 or some of the newer ones, and he's a little bit more sluggish, and you're like, I wish you'd just move a little more faster, buddy. But then I read like this interview at like Nightmare Before Dreamland where it's like, yeah, we chose to slow him down for like make it a little easier for new players, and it's like, okay, like I guess like people who play games, at a different skill set may just like run into things and not grasp or want to give up right away. So it's like giving them a chance to react is helpful, and maybe that's why that design decision gets made. And since Smash, you still kind of want casual people to enjoy it too. It's like finding that balance. Like they kind of made Ultimate a little bit more friendly for competitive players, but kind of still slowed it down, so it's a little bit, it's not as slow as 64, but it's like somewhere in the middle. So I agree, yeah, it feels that way. I do like fast stuff, but I think Ultimate is nice. At least it's a little bit nicer to me than like Brawl, even though I love Brawl, but like Brawl feels weird. Yeah.
I do feel like Brawl is maybe the one I'm like least excited to revisit. Maybe the Wii U one to some degree too, just because it feels like Ultimate is just kind of a almost expanded version of the Wii U one. But no, the Nintendo 64 one feels really distinct, and the current one feels really distinct. Melee feels really distinct. The other two just kind of feel like the other ones to some degree. Still really good games, just they don't stand out as much for me.
Brawl's just got the subspace mode everyone goes crazy for. That's
I love it. Yeah,
I love it.
That mode is really good.
If
I
they
love it too.
if they could have put that type of mode in like the newest one, people would just be like, all right, forget about Brawl, you know. I like Brawl.
I've had a lot of fun with Brawl too.
I've probably played that one the most, to be honest. But
we did
way more than any other one.
Because that was the right
That was
like
my like high school and college.
Yeah. That age our group was like competitive, but not like we would never hang in any tournament. But you know, like we were competitive with each other more so than when I was a kid smashing around in the first one. But to the new one's credit, also it has a lot of customization where you can make things a lot more simpler. Like obviously, like you could do all the stages as like the Final Destination style or the battlefield style or whatever, but also you could create item sets and like save them and rule sets and stuff. And so I did sometimes it's partially nostalgia, but also because I thought like with certain friends they might like this, but item sets that are like just items from the first game or something. And
I like that idea.
Yeah, and like lower or like, you know, just pick your favorites or whatever, and even lower it a little bit. So because I find that's just like that's sometimes what's hard about playing the newer ones with newer people is you're fighting, and then all of a sudden there's like those little parts that you have to pick up to create like the gun or the thing you ride, and new players are like, what's that, you know? And it is fun to like blast them or whatever, but I feel like it's hard to like start to get into that mode, you know, where it's like I feel like it's a little bit easier as like, what's that? Oh, it's a hammer. If I grab that, I'll hit him with a hammer, you know. Like it's less complicated.
Fair. Yeah. There's a lot more stuff. I like that is something that, I mean, for the original game there was ways to kind of make your own games within it, and I feel like they play with that in the single player a little, where it's like each kind of battle is sort of like you fight a giant Donkey Kong, you fight a bunch of Kirbys with different hats, and they kind of give you the power to do stuff like that in the new one, where it's like we have this thing where like I kind of made games within this game where it's like, okay, I'm gonna make my Kirby giant, and it's gonna be a team battle against my giant Kirby with great stats and stamina, and it's like a boss fight. So I created like a boss fight for like my friends to fight, and we do other things in there too. I won't get into all of it, but like, yeah, it's like the option to kind of do things within each game is still even there in like the original game, because you can like change the kind of items and stock and stuff that you can do with it, and team battles and all that. So it's really fun, and it's cool. Like that core concept can be expanded upon so much over the years.
It is fun how certain games become a sort of universal language, even among people that barely play video games. Where I feel Mario Kart is kind of in that camp, right? Where even a lot of people, even if they haven't really played a lot of video games, they have maybe played Mario Kart at some point. Right? I think like Joe Biden was playing Mario Kart like a few years ago at like Camp David or something. Like, I feel like that, like it just comes up. And Smash Brothers is sort of in that same territory, I think. Maybe not quite as universal as Mario Kart, but it's something that like I like fighting games, but I know a lot of my friends don't necessarily play them, and there has to be some level of like, well, do you play this one? Well, do you play this one? Do you want to both try to learn this one so we can play it together? Whereas with Smash Brothers, it can be like, well, does anyone want to play Smash Brothers? And it's something like everybody knows and can all kind of hop into regardless of their levels of experience.
Yeah. Everyone raises their hands and they're like, yes, let's play. Yeah, I feel like even people who kind of stopped, like my brother kind of doesn't play much Nintendo anymore. He does like PC gaming or whatever now. League of Legends or something. I don't know much about it, but but like he once in a while would like he could. I feel like he can come back to Smash and have like a good time. And I think a while back he did do that with a few matches. So it's like it is like a universal game. It's like that Mario Kart. I don't know what else is in that camp because now it's sort of like, I don't know. What's like the games that everyone's playing now? Like Fortnite or something? I don't know.
Among Us? No, wait, that's
Among
like 3
Us?
years
Oh.
ago or something,
Yeah,
right?
Fortnite is still very
Yeah.
popular. Rocket League
Yeah,
is very popular, at least with younger people.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
We play new games all the time that I feel like this is a game for younger people, and I'm just kind of along for the ride. But I don't know if I couldn't tell you if they're actually popular. They all of a sudden are everyone we know is talking about them, and I'm like, okay, sure, let's go for it. Let's do it.
The like Lethal Company likes.
Yeah, like they're all trying to be like that in a way. Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know
I
what
guess too.
Minecraft. Yeah. That's enduring. That's like becoming its own, like game language at this point with how long it's been
Yeah.
around. So we actually last year at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon, the charity event we do every year, I brought my TV back there, my N64, and we got it set up and we're playing Smash, and it was, if you're in a room like or in a building filled with Nintendo fans, and it was like the perfect game to like we had like people swapping in and out, and it was delightful.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I miss that. I feel like it's such a social game too. And like the N64, this is sort of the first time you have like the 4-player built into the console. So like it's not just you and your sibling anymore. You can invite like the kids in the neighborhood, like your neighbors can come over and play. And now everyone can grab a controller and up to 4 people can play. And it's like becomes this very social thing. Same with like Mario Kart. And like Smash Brothers is just one of those games too that I've made friends because of Smash Brothers. Like there would be an event and I'd join in and people like, you love this game too, so do I. And like just meet people that way in college. Like Brawl was like in the cafeteria area, and like this group of people, I mean, I kind of miss classes because like I was very bad back then, but like there was a times where I just stay and play Brawl for a while, and so many people were in and out, and it was just like this big social thing. And yeah, it's something that I really like about the original Smash too, is like this is kind of the beginning of like this greater social gathering. Like we moved from the arcades to each other's living rooms. Now we're sort of apart again because now everything's online. I'm not saying that people still don't couch co-op or anything anymore, but like it's more isolated than it used to be. But at this time, it's like primo gathering around, the living room with all your friends and family. It's like really nice. Like, you got Mario Party, Mario Kart, this game, Bomberman, all these games. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that a little, I mean, we still do that. Luckily, I have friends in real life that want to play games in real life, and it's nice. But not everyone has that, and it is a bummer.
It's more of like it's like we get to do a fair amount because we have some friends like that we'll see every once in a while, and it's like pretty often, and it's like the two of them come over and it's like, oh great, we can do 4-player stuff, like that's cool. But then it's like weekly we're playing games online with like my brother and our other friends, and so I like now the flexibility of it. Like that's, I mean, just being an adult, you know, and you can't just go over and be like, hey guys, can you come over and play? You know, like, when people
That's
do that
true.
now, it's like, leave me alone. You know, like, give me a week's notice. You know?
Yeah.
That's fair. It depends who's asking too. You
That's
might
why
not
they
want that.
need to put it on NSO, like for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I do like that. And then there's people that you are friends with and you just don't live with each other, like near each other anymore, but you still want to be in contact. So it's nice.
Mhm.
It's nice to at least play it that way.
That is, I always say this, like they need to, I guess they do advertise it, but I feel like it should be like the biggest selling point of NSO. Obviously there's all the issues with NSO and not owning your games or whatever, but I feel like the actual selling point should be like, it's just incredible. Like me and my brother who don't live near each other can play games we played together as kids, like easily. I know there's ways to do it, but Nintendo like providing like a simple way to do it for just like some dummy like me is really awesome. Or like Sean, you're talking about like maybe we'll play some Soul Calibur 2 together on our Switch 2s if we can get them. Like that idea of it being like simple is such a good selling point that I'm like, they should just like, they could just make commercials for playing in Nintendo 64 games with your friends. And there's a lot of people who are like more casual who are like, oh, I should look into this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like, for me, one of the main draws of the Switch 2 is playing those GameCube games online with people. And I might even treat the Switch 2 as just a sort of like GameCube 2 for a while, without even necessarily having that many new games for it.
And the undersold feature, this is less with the multiplayer, but the pass the controller feature is so awesome. Like,
yeah,
you could, if, I don't know, if you know, have someone who you played like Wind Waker with, like me and my brother have memories of passing the controller on that game when we were a kid. So it's like, I can relive that with him now, even though he's across the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been playing through Jet Force Gemini with a friend that way. And that's a game I played with my twin brother when we were growing up. And it's been like so long that it still feels kind of new-ish. Like things are coming back to me as I go through it again. But it's fun to revisit it now with someone else who lives in California and I live in Wisconsin. We can still play this game together.
We really need the Smash 64 on there. Oh my gosh.
Come on.
It's on the...
I do feel like I need to take more initiative with the people who live in my area who I know I could be playing games with in person, where it's just so easy to just say, okay, well, we'll just play something online. And it does feel like a sort of like stranger and maybe kind of bigger ask to ask like another adult in their 30s, like, hey, do you want to come over to my apartment and have to like schedule time out of your life to do that? And then play Smash Brothers on the Nintendo 64, right? Like it can feel like kind of a big process to go through to just play a video game with someone when there's so many easier ways to do that from the comfort of your own home. But you do miss out on the social part, right? Like it is a different kind of experience.
See, I'm privileged because I work with my friends and we're all in the same place. And after work, we're just like, you just want to go over the TV and play some Smash. And we're like, hell yeah, you know, we all get there and play together. But not everyone likes their coworkers or like has that like.
I don't want my coworkers to know anything about what I do when I leave the doors. You know, I just...
Yeah. That's fair. I've had jobs like that. It's just I work in like a more laid back, you know, situation at the moment anyway. And it's I like some of my friends here. So it's like it is a privilege. So, you know, not everyone's in that situation.
A lot of my coworkers are children, so that creates its own obstacles.
No.
Well, won't be weird if I invite my class over to play Smash.
Do you like Kirby?
Right?
I do talk with my students about Kirby sometimes. They're surprised that I know references to things in their world. I think I have told this story before, but someone was talking about the Yiga clan one time in class. Like they were doing a project about Native Americans, and someone mentioned the Yiga clan as a joke. And I
Oh my God.
knew what that was and was talking to them about it. And they're like, how do you know the things that we reference? Like they just seemed like so baffled that this grown-up would know about Zelda references.
Shouldn't you just be watching I Love Lucy or
Yeah.
something?
Reading
the
the
Brady Bunch.
stocks and-
Just think of ancient things.
I love Lucy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's fire. That's just fire. But
Yeah.
Still funny. Yeah. That's good. I'm glad at least you're like exposed to kind of what they're into. You couldn't ask me what people's kids are into, other than like my friends have kids and they'll be like, oh, this is what they're into. Like they're into chicken jockey or whatever. It's like, okay, I don't know what that is, but all right.
we play Minecraft all the time with my brother and stuff, and I didn't even know what that was. Like,
I did have to
I
look
was
it
like,
up.
please explain this to me, Michael.
Not something you encounter very often.
No,
It's pretty rare.
we did let's not talk about Minecraft. We beat Minecraft. Okay, I saw credits.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So one thing I think I am glad, as we think about the accessibility of this game, if you compare it to Dragon King, I think that's what it was called, right? Let me just double check.
I think that's what you said earlier, but
need to
I didn't know
double-check
that.
what I said earlier. Yeah, Dragon King. So if you look at the early footage of it, the characters do have these blood-curdling screams as they go falling off the stage. And I think it's probably a good idea that you don't like punch like Pikachu off the stage and he just like screams all the way down. Like
Just, Pika! So I like they do make it comical, like the way the characters are falling and like their yells are funny.
Yeah. I think they do a good job on making it seem more like a cartoon than like with Street Fighter, it's like, yeah, I imagine these two guys in the street are really like duking it. Like when I see the characters in Smash, I'm like, these are like cartoon characters and they're like hitting each other with bananas and stuff. It's goofy. It's a goofy time.
Yeah, I feel like Street Fighter can be really silly.
It can.
I know
It
what you're
can.
saying, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a little more, or like I guess a better example is like what's the one where you rip a guy's spine
Like
out?
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. There we go.
There's no like X-rays of their like internal organs being crushed.
Yeah. Oh my god, could you imagine that? Like in Smash Brothers, where like Mario hits like Pikachu and it just like closes in. There's a little of that in this game actually, where it's like if you get hit by electricity, you do see bones, which I think is the most like probably graphic thing in these games. And fun fact, I guess it confirms that Kirby has no bones because he doesn't have bones when you electrocute him.
Hey, I think you said you're gonna cover that on the episode. Like, what is Kirby? There's some evidence.
Yeah, he's something without bones.
Gigi, I know we've been going for a while, so maybe we can start to wrap things up. But I am very curious, Gigi, what is Smash Brothers culture like in Brazil right now?
Good question. I'm not really that familiar, but I recall there are some tournaments sometimes.
Like if you were to just like have a group of people over or something and Smash Brothers was sitting out, could you be like, hey everyone, do you want to play some Smash Brothers? And would everybody have kind of grown up with it and have that kind of background?
Yeah. Assuming they grew up with Nintendo games, most likely. I feel like here in Brazil, the most like popular console actually was the Wii, because previously the 64 and GameCube, actually some people had it, but it was more like a luxury item, and the Wii was more like more people had it. So, and at least my age as well. So many people grew up with Brawl, I know. Some with Melee, but not everyone. So yeah, they are familiar with it, and many that have a Switch have a Smash Ultimate and stuff. So yeah, people are familiar with it, and varying, like, some people are more familiar with some characters or others, but like in general, Smash is like it's a popular game here, like for Nintendo. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, just internationally, I guess it just had a really universal appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Cool. Well, does anyone have any final thoughts as we wrap this up? Any other thoughts that we haven't covered about what it's like to play Smash Brothers today? Or say the original Smash Brothers today?
Well, I kind of, we sort of talked, you mentioned it right in the beginning, and I got me thinking. I think this might be probably the first time I did extensively play as Kirby in a video game. Like, I don't think I never owned any Kirby games prior to this. Like, I think I had maybe played Kirby's Dream. Like, I definitely remember seeing the artwork, so like, but yeah, this is probably the first time I got to play as Kirby. And I know, Bridget, you mentioned Ness. And I think this is also where I learned about Samus for the first time, because I did not have a Super Nintendo, and no one I knew was talking about Metroid when I was a little kid. Really, like, half the roster, I know that's not playing it today, but I just wanted to mention, like, especially for Kirby, like, and honestly, just playing it, like, certain, especially in some of the games where they have more of like the adventure type modes, like even playing that, I remember playing that and then playing Kirby and being like, oh, this is kind of like Smash a little bit. It's kind of like Melee and Brawl had those sort of stages. So I mean, I probably would have enjoyed Kirby regardless, but and I definitely knew who Kirby was when I played it. He was a very popular character, but this definitely planted more of a seed for me to be into Kirby.
Yeah, I feel like I want to add to that in that this is a good gateway to other games as well, as people learn about the characters. And I had a friend who was super into Smash Brothers, and he also was super into Fire Emblem, which he got into because he mained Marth in Smash Brothers, but he hadn't played much Kirby games. And so I was like, if you love Smash Brothers, I need to introduce you to Kirby, because there's a big connection between Kirby and Smash Brothers from various design standpoints and the creator and the studio at the time that started it. And I had him play Kirby Superstar with me. We co-opted it, and he played it. He's like doing the moves in that game and checking out the move sets, and he's like, I think this is like Smash Brothers. And I'm like, yes, this is like Smash Brothers. Yeah, you're getting the connection. And then, we played through Superstar. He loved it. He's like, I love Smash Brothers, so this makes sense that I enjoyed Superstar. Then we also played Return to Dreamland together. It was good, and I don't know if he would have played those if he didn't know someone who was familiar with, who shared his passion for Smash, and then also was a Kirby fan. And it's a great way to introduce people to games as well. So that's just this greater element to it also that I really appreciate, and that's why I really like both series a lot.
It's funny because in my case it was the opposite. I played Kirby first, and then when I played Smash, I was like, "Oh, this is just Kirby."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of Sakurai's signature style is already very apparent here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this nice he likes to kind of simplify complex things. He's kind of described this as how he kind of handled Kid Icarus and Meteos in terms of a puzzle game that is maybe more accessible to people who are overwhelmed by Puyo Puyo and other puzzle games. And with this, it's he took the idea of a brawler and a fighter and kind of here's a base move set with the directionals. It's kind of similar to the Kirby Superstar movesets, except for you have B for specials, and you can add that and just got a whole more moves there. So it's cool. It's a good way to think about stuff, especially if you're making games for so many people. It's it's good thought process, and it's great. It's it permeates through all of it. This DNA, it's good. I I like his games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they even gave Kirby the Smash Brothers ability, so it loops.
Oh yeah,
the game.
vice versa. Yeah. So yeah, now the new games some of the new Kirby games, you can get like the Smash Brothers ability, which gives you the Smash Brothers moveset from I think Melee in some of the games. I think Planet
Wow.
Robobot and Amazing Mirror have it. Oh, and Master Hand is kind of from Kirby as well. So like he's in Amazing Mirror. And you can fight him and get that ability. So it's a lot of crossover there. So it's great. Anyway, I love Smash.
Yeah. I'm sure we could talk about Smash Brothers for hours, and likely will in future episodes. Hopefully we can revisit this series a lot more often in the episodes to come, because like I said at the start, for a podcast where we consider Smash Brothers part of the buckets that we cover, we really haven't covered that series as often. So thank you all for getting together to talk about some of the original Smash Brothers and share your experiences with it. This has been Kirby Conversations. I'm Sean Douglas. I'm here with Bridget and Gigi. We are producers of the show, along with Kai, Captain Dangerous, Parker. I know she's not on the show as often anymore, but she does support the show behind the scenes as a producer, and we're very glad to have her on board as well. We're also very grateful to have Flashback 64 with us again. Gooey and McKenna, do you want to say anything about your show before we go?
We cover the Nintendo 64 library chronologically. We're not going to talk about this game for a long time. You guys kind of ruined it all for us, but yeah, just check out the show if that sounds cool to you, if you like Nintendo 64 or more.
90s culture and history.
We're like half 90s pop culture podcast, half Nintendo 64 podcast. Yeah, it's fun.
A lot of Candle in the Wind coverage.
We got actually I wanted to ask all of you, where do you remember when I'm just kidding. Where were you?
It was on the top of the charts for a long time.
Yeah.
Shows up in a lot of episodes.
I have to survey every guest we have about Princess Diana's death, but it turns out a lot of 8 to 14-year-olds at the time did not care. So it's kind of a dud of a segment of the show, but I'm committed to bringing it up every time until we're almost out. We're about to enter 1998, and I think the song's coming off the chart soon. I don't know what's next, but we'll have a new banger.
Yeah. It's funny. I did check with you before I did this. Like, is it okay if you talk about Smash Brothers? Because I know you're very committed to the chronological order, and I don't want to throw off the rhythm of everything. Smash
is one of those where it's like, we talked about it. It's just like this game now that has endured. You know what I mean? Like, you could talk. We haven't covered everything in the game in this hour and a half that we've been talking. Yeah. So when we get to it in like, at the pace we're moving, like 6 years, we'll have fresh opinions on it. When we're talking about Smash 6 or whatever will have come out by that point, or not. I don't know.
And maybe this one will have finally come out in NSO too.
I hope.
Yeah. I hope.
Yeah. And then if people want to follow Kirby Conversations, we invite you to follow us on Bluesky. We also post some episodes on YouTube. We're trying to do more with that. I wouldn't say it's the first place to follow us, but we're trying to get more video content out there as well. And if you like this show, we invite you to give us a follow in your podcast player. And if you're willing and want to leave us a good review, we're always grateful for the people who leave reviews as well. And please check out Flashback 64 and leave them some nice comments as well. Thank you all for listening, and we will be back soon with more Kirby Conversations.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Not that, because, a lot of people are like, well, you don't own the games or anything. Sorry, there's like a cop going by or something.
They heard about what Bridget was trying to do with the cartridge she ordered.
They're like, I think we're in the wrong state, but